No man or woman has ever risen to greatness without first developing a definite belief in what could be. All the accomplishments that fill the pages of history, all the monuments that stand as symbols of human achievement, began as invisible thoughts, vague to some, but vivid and certain to those who believed. Before greatness appears in the physical world, it must be constructed brick by brick in the mind. The architect of success must see the structure before the foundation is even laid. Without belief, talent lies dormant, resources remain unused, and opportunities pass unnoticed. Belief is the lens that brings the unseen into focus. It is the creative force that molds imagination into intention and turns intention into action. A definite belief is not wishful thinking. It is not the fleeting hope that things might turn out well if luck shows favor. No, it is a firm, unwavering inner conviction that the goal, no matter how distant or impossible it may seem to others, is already within reach. It is a mental stand taken before the first step is made. The world may label such belief as arrogance or blind optimism, but those who carry it do not waver. They know something others do not. They have looked within and seen the picture of their success so clearly that they feel its reality even before it manifests. It is this definiteness, this absolute inner certainty, that sets the achiever apart from the average. There are many who hope, there are millions who dream, but few believe with such intensity that their belief becomes a law in their own mind. These are the ones who bend the world to their vision. The reason most people fail to achieve what they desire is not for lack of ability or opportunity. It is because their belief is soft, conditional, and easily shaken. They believe only when others approve. They believe only when circumstances are favorable. But greatness requires belief that stands even in the storm. It is forged in difficulty and tested by delay. Those who possess it do not ask, "Is this possible?" They declare, "It is possible," and then act as though it already exists. Think of the inventors, the pioneers, the leaders, the builders, those whose names are remembered long after they are gone. They were not given guarantees. They were not offered certainty by the world. They created their own certainty by believing with such strength that nothing could discourage them. When the Wright brothers dared to believe that man could fly, the world laughed. But they believed. When Thomas Edison was told that electricity was a fantasy, he believed. When explorers set sail toward what others called the edge of the earth, they believed. And when belief became action, action became evidence, and evidence became the future. To believe definitely is to commit yourself fully. It is to cut off retreat and burn the ships behind you. It is to say, "This is the life I will create, and I will persist until it is so." A wavering belief produces wavering effort, but a definite belief directs your thoughts, channels your energy, and creates consistency in the face of challenge. Once you believe with definiteness, your mind begins to search relentlessly for means, connections, resources, and strategy. The universe begins to respond. What you hold as true in the unseen eventually takes shape in the seen. But let there be no mistake, definite belief does not mean belief without struggle. In fact, struggle often confirms belief. When your belief is real, you will not stop because things get hard. You will expect resistance, and you will embrace it as part of the journey. The mountain climber does not curse the height. He climbs because he believes in the summit. The entrepreneur does not fear rejection. She moves forward because she believes in her vision. The artist continues even when misunderstood because he believes in what he is creating. Belief gives birth to endurance, and endurance builds greatness. Greatness does not appear by accident. It is invited through belief, nurtured through persistence, and realized through consistent effort. A definite belief becomes the command center of your being. It directs your thoughts, influences your behavior, and creates a magnetic pull toward your goal. Those who waver will be tossed by every doubt and defeated by every delay. But those who believe with clarity, with passion, and with finality will find that the world yields to their inner vision, one step at a time, until the impossible becomes real. Desire is the starting point of all achievement, but not just any desire. Only a burning desire has the power to transform a person's life. It is not enough to want success casually, to wish for it in passing, or to daydream about a better future. Great accomplishments are not born from shallow wants. They rise from desires so intense, so consuming, that they dominate the mind both day and night. A burning desire is not an emotion that flickers when the winds of difficulty blow. It is a fire that feeds on purpose, grows through adversity, and refuses to die, no matter the obstacles. When a man or woman is seized by such a desire, they become a force of nature. They are no longer waiting for permission. They are no longer seeking reassurance. They are driven from within by a vision that demands to be realized. The reason most people never fulfill their potential is not because they lack talent, resources, or even opportunity. It is because they lack intensity. Their desires are lukewarm. They want comfort more than they want greatness. They seek approval more than they seek achievement. And because their desire is weak, their actions are scattered, their discipline is fragile, and their focus is short-lived. A burning desire, on the other hand, sharpens the mind and strengthens the will. It gives a person the energy to rise before others, to work when others rest, to keep going when others quit. It makes sacrifice feel like investment. It makes long hours feel like progress. It turns effort into purpose. Burning desire is the emotional foundation of all success. It creates resilience when failure shows up. It creates clarity when confusion surrounds you. It drives action even when the path ahead is uncertain. When you are filled with a desire that refuses to be ignored, you become willing to do what others will not. You become willing to take the risk, endure the criticism, and walk the path alone if necessary. A burning desire is not polite. It does not ask for permission. It compels you to act. It whispers, then it speaks, then it roars, until your vision becomes more real than your current circumstances. There are those who wait for the right time, the perfect plan, or the ideal opportunity, but those who are ruled by burning desire do not wait. They create. They act first, learn quickly, adapt constantly, and press forward relentlessly. They are not discouraged by setbacks because their desire is stronger than their fear. They do not give in to doubt because their belief is fed by their desire. The world eventually moves aside for those who refuse to give up, not because they are the most gifted, but because they are the most determined. Desire gives birth to determination, and determination molds destiny. A person with burning desire becomes magnetic. Others begin to feel the force of their conviction. Doors begin to open that once remained closed. Why? Because the world recognizes fire. It is drawn to those who burn with purpose. A burning desire does not make excuses, it makes moves. It does not dwell on problems, it seeks solutions. It does not need to be told what to do because it already knows. It already feels that there is no alternative but forward. Success is not an option for such a person. It is the only outcome they will accept. There is a deep difference between wishing and wanting. Many people wish for a better life, but few want it with the urgency and fire that drives action. Wishing is passive. It waits for things to happen. Wanting with burning desire is active. It makes things happen. It is the fuel that transforms a goal from a nice idea into a must-have. When desire burns bright enough, no excuse can survive in its presence. The mind begins to reorganize itself around the goal. The body finds strength it didn't know it had. Time is no longer wasted because every moment becomes a step toward the vision. Burning desire turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. It doesn't ask where you started. It doesn't care about your background. It doesn't wait for ideal circumstances. It simply asks, how badly do you want this? And then moves forward with or without applause. It is desire that makes the impossible possible because it refuses to accept limitations. When you possess this level of inner fire, you no longer need constant motivation because you are no longer powered by external things. You are driven by something deeper, something internal, unshakable, and undeniable. You are pulled forward by the gravity of your own dreams. Fear is the great paralyzer. It has stopped more dreams, silenced more voices, and buried more potential than failure ever could. But fear in itself is not the enemy. Fear is merely energy, raw, untamed, and directionless. Left uncontrolled, it breeds hesitation, doubt, and inaction. But when faith is present, fear does not disappear, it is transformed. It becomes a tool, a motivator, a source of fuel that drives a person to rise above what once held them back. Faith does not eliminate fear, it redefines it. It gives fear a job to do. It turns fear into motion. When you believe deeply, wholly, and unquestionably, you strip fear of its power to control you. It may still whisper in the dark corners of your mind, but your faith speaks louder. Faith is the quiet inner voice that says, go anyway, when fear says, stay where it's safe. It is the force that allows a person to walk into uncertainty with steady steps. Where fear sees all the ways something could go wrong, faith sees the one reason to keep going. Where fear sees a wall, faith sees a ladder. Fear shows up in everyone's life. It is part of the human experience. But what separates those who rise from those who retreat is the presence of faith, a belief that there is something greater on the other side of the unknown. Faith is not blind optimism. It is not naive hope. It is rooted confidence, built through decision, conviction, and vision. It is the belief that what you are moving toward is stronger than what you are running from. When a person lacks faith, fear becomes their guide. It dictates their decisions, shrinks their vision, and weakens their spirit. But when faith is dominant, fear becomes an indicator, not a dictator. It becomes a signal that you are standing at the edge of growth. Fear then becomes useful because it tells you where to push. It shows you where your next breakthrough lies. Those who achieve greatness are not immune to fear. They have simply learned to use it. They feel it, acknowledge it, and then move anyway. They do not wait for fear to vanish. They allow faith to lead. Faith gives courage its legs. Without faith, courage is impossible. You cannot take bold action if you do not first believe that something greater will come of it. That belief is the anchor in chaos. It is what steadies you when everything seems uncertain. Faith takes fear, the raw and often wild emotion, and channels it into something constructive. It allows you to step into discomfort knowing that it will shape you. It lets you endure setbacks knowing they will grow you. It makes risk feel like investment and makes failure feel like feedback. In this way, faith turns fear into movement, into progress, into strength, into purpose. When you begin to act in faith, the fear you once felt begins to work in your favor. The same adrenaline that once froze you now energizes you. The same hesitation that once stopped you now sharpens your focus. Fear no longer becomes a reason not to act. It becomes a sign that you are exactly where you need to be. Your body may still feel it, your heart may race, your hands may tremble, but your mind, guided by faith, refuses to yield. That is the turning point. That is when fear becomes fuel. That is when what once held you back now propels you forward. Think of the moments in history where greatness emerged. Behind every act of courage, there stood someone who had faith in a cause, a purpose, or a vision bigger than their fear. The soldier on the battlefield, the inventor facing ridicule, the leader standing alone, all of them felt fear. But none of them let fear decide. They chose faith. They chose to believe that their efforts would matter, that their steps, though uncertain, would lead somewhere meaningful. And because they chose faith, their fear became strength, their hesitation became clarity, their vulnerability became power. And you do not need to eliminate fear to do something extraordinary. You only need to believe in your vision more than you fear the struggle it requires. You only need to take one step, then another, letting faith guide your feet, even if your eyes cannot yet see the full path. Faith is what keeps the fire inside burning when the world tries to smother it. It is what keeps you standing when everything in you wants to run. It is what tells you again and again that your dream is not only possible, it is waiting for you. And with every choice you make in faith, fear loses ground and purpose gains power. Belief is not proven in what you say, it is proven in what you do. Words are cheap, thoughts are silent, but action, consistent and deliberate, is the true evidence of belief. You can speak of your dreams, you can write down your goals, you can even visualize them daily, but until your feet move, your hands build, and your mind commits, belief has not yet been born. True belief demands expression, and that expression comes in the form of action. When you believe something is possible with every fiber of your being, your life begins to move in the direction of that belief. It is no longer just an idea you entertain, it becomes the foundation for every decision you make. People often say they believe, but belief without action is simply a wish in disguise. If you believe in your vision, you will pursue it relentlessly. If you believe in your ability, you will develop it tirelessly. If you believe the life you imagine is possible, you will take steps, however small, toward it every single day. Action is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. It is not enough to have belief that whispers. It must shout through the way you live. Your habits, your persistence, your work ethic, and your willingness to show up even on the hardest days. These are the loudest declarations of your belief. There is no such thing as passive belief. Belief either grows through action or dies through inaction. When belief is genuine, it brings urgency. You no longer wait for the perfect moment or the ideal condition because you understand that belief makes the moment right. You begin where you are with what you have and you commit fully. The dream becomes a demand, not an option. Those who truly believe move forward even when they are not ready. They don't wait to feel confident or qualified. They act first and let growth follow. This is the rhythm of real belief. It leads with motion and builds momentum through effort. Action requires courage, especially in the face of fear, failure, and criticism. But belief gives you that courage. It silences the voices that say you can't, and it empowers you to answer with progress. There is no greater display of faith than a person who continues to act when results have not yet appeared. When the world sees no evidence but you continue anyway, that is belief in its purest form. It is not dependent on approval or applause. It is driven by inner certainty that does not fade in the dark. Every time you act despite the unknown, you carve a path forward, and every step confirms your commitment to the goal you've set. You cannot build a legacy with thoughts alone. You must act. You must risk. You must do. Action may not always be glamorous. Sometimes it's tedious. Sometimes it's lonely. But every act, no matter how small, is a vote for your future. Each task you complete, each hour you invest, each setback you overcome, these are the bricks that build the life you claim to believe in. Talk does not build empires. Desire does not create results. It is only when belief is translated into action that transformation begins. When others doubt, the one who acts does not engage in debate. They let results speak. When obstacles rise, the one who acts adjusts but never retreats. Because belief that fuels action becomes a kind of certainty the world cannot deny. Over time, it creates proof, not in theory, but in reality. You can see it in the progress made, in the strength developed, in the goals achieved. Action is how you bring your belief out of your mind and into the world. It is the bridge between intention and impact. The truth is, if someone followed you around for a day and watched your behavior, watched how you spent your time, how you approached your goals, how you responded to challenge, would they conclude you believe in yourself? Would your actions testify to your faith in your mission? Or would they reveal hesitation, doubt, or distraction? Your actions are your message to the world. They say, without a single word, whether or not you truly believe. And if you want to know the truth about your own belief, you only need to look at what you're doing consistently. Not what you intend to do, not what you hope to do, but what you are doing. Action brings belief to life. It gives it breath and form and direction. When you take action rooted in belief, you start to gather evidence. That evidence builds confidence, and confidence reinforces belief. It is a cycle that begins with movement. Nothing changes until you act, and once you do, the universe begins to respond. Not to your thoughts alone, but to the courage you show through action. Real belief does not sit still. It moves, it builds, it endures, and ultimately, it delivers.